Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second day of Liminal. And just see, it takes a while for everyone to flood in. Who we got coming in? Oh, Eva, hi. Stephanie, Yasmin. Just while everyone's coming into the room, would love for you to pop into the chat where you're tuning in from. It was awesome yesterday. There's people from Johannesburg, San Francisco, Gold Coast. Tell me where you are. Auckland, hi Jackie. Melbourne, oh hey Krista. Love this. There we go. Cool, we've got 37 on the call coming in. All right, cool. I will kick things off. Hey Amanda, Janice. Oh, Joel, you're back again. Love this. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, while everyone's coming to the room, I will kick things off. So welcome to the second day of Liminal. I'm Sophia Witherington and I head up the fellowship program at Startmate. We've created Liminal to give you a snapshot into, first of all, your career, what a career in startups can look like, and secondly, how you can get there, even if there is no clear path for you right now. Speakers this week will show you that the path to a successful career is certainly not straightforward. And so if you are thinking about a career change, whether that's out of corporates into startups, from one function to another, we really hope to inspire you to make the leap. Liminal is a taste of the fellowship action. And so if you enjoy what you see and who you meet this week, we'd love for you to apply for the fellowship, which is a 2-month program, which kicks off in late March. Applications are open from yesterday. So a couple of quick housekeeping things. That session is going to be recorded. Please put all your questions for the wonderful coaching panel into Slido, which I'm just going to pop into the chat now. And please do tweet us or share your thoughts on LinkedIn along the way. We'd love to hear from you. So very big welcome to our panel. We have Lauren, Peter, and Maxine. Lauren is currently the principal at Startmate. She's also a certified executive coach. She is joined in the conversation by Maxine Minter, who's an angel investor and CEO of the M Collective, a leadership coaching and training organization. And we also have Peter who's the founder of Qualgro Venture Fund, which operates across Asia and Australia. He's a longtime Startmate mentor and the VC's industry resident mindfulness coach. Lauren, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Sophia, and good morning to everyone who has tuned in. I'm really excited for this conversation, and also just for the fact that, you know, this concept of coaching and kind of investing in and leveling up yourself is becoming much more a part of the kind of mainstream conversation as it relates to the startup ecosystem and our career progression in general. So thanks again to you, Peter and Maxine, for joining me today. I wanted to return somewhat to the premise of the session to get started, this idea of investing in yourself. You know, every day we're exposed to this fire hose of information. I mean, Liminal is no different in a way. We have lots of amazing speakers and content, but how do we not just think about how to do better and kind of absorb all this information without feeling like we're falling short or just unclear on, you know, what to take on for ourselves and maximize where to head next. So how do we look at this idea of executive coaching as a way to fast track this professional and personal development we're seeking without kind of just tackling it solo? So to dive into this conversation, let's start with the basics. What is an executive coach and what do they do? Of course, not all coaches are equal. So Maxine, from your experience at the M Collective, what's the kind of ideal remit for an executive coach?
Yeah, thank you so much for having us this morning and putting this on. I'm really excited to be here and share kind of how we think about executive coaching. Exactly as you said, it's a wide and a diverse net of different ways that people approach executive coaching. So one way that we think about it is, if you think of a continuum, on one end of the continuum is life coaching, which is all about, you know, our relationship to ourselves and kind of where we're headed in life on a personal level. And then the other end of the continuum is probably, let's say, management consultants. They come in and kind of fix your business and are focused on how your business is working. And executive coaches can be anywhere on that spectrum. Sometimes they are almost exactly the same as a management consultant with a little bit of a focus on you. And sometimes they are solely focused on you and sometimes tip their hat to your business. The way that we think about it is kind of thinking about, what do I want to work on? Do I want to work on my relationship to myself, what we call the intrapersonal relationship, the relationship to others, so interpersonal relationships, so soft skills, influence, persuasion, and then structural. what are the structures and processes that exist in my organization, in the company I'm building, in the company I'm operating within, and how does that influence the other three? So kind of a way to think about where executive coaches sit on that continuum really starts with you. You know, what am I looking to work on? And then they can be anywhere in the middle there. I think especially for the audience here today, a particular call out for career coaches. Those are people that specialize in supporting people thinking about their trajectory through their career. Sometimes that's part of executive coaching. You know, if we're talking about people in the middle of that continuum, then they're helping you navigate your career, but also your business and how you slot into your career and those kind of things. Whereas if you just want support on how do you navigate your career, you can come, there's kind of specialists that focus on helping you apply for the right job, you know, put your resume together, do really well in the interview, those kind of things.
That's really helpful. Thanks for breaking that down in that way, Maxine. So Peter, I'm sure I'm not understating it when I say you've worked, oh, I'm sorry, I probably am understating it. You've worked with hundreds of founders and leaders across your career. And of course, with startup founders in particular, that idea of working on yourself and working on the business is somewhat inextricably linked. What role has coaching played in the best leaders that you've seen?
Absolutely, and so delighted to be here with all of you. So just to give a little bit of background context, I've been teaching mindfulness for over 10 years now. And over the last few years, since 2016, I've been working with 3 founders every quarter. So, you know, 3 founders, so on and so forth, on a pro bono basis for the course of 3 months on a sort of deep mindfulness coaching. And the work that we do is really, I mean, in terms of the wonderful spectrum that Maxine talked about, is very much on to working on the self, building self-awareness, but then using the startup context as almost like your MBA material for your case study, so that you can continue this cycle of reflection. And so the work that I'm really doing, and a lot of other coaches sort of use this sort of framework, is that we're essentially mirrors back to, in this case, founders, so that they can have this really quick learning cycle between life and work, revealing who they are back to themselves, so that they can observe their own behaviors, they can observe their own biases, perhaps. They can evolve beyond the current framework and lens within which they're seeing the world. And that learning is almost self-done through observation. And all I'm doing is providing a context for them to be able to do that with somebody else. And the benefit of that is that, you know, the learning is accelerated. You know, you're learning so much faster. You have somebody else there to help hold the space, if I can put it that way, in a metaphorical sense, so that learning can occur. And so, yeah, I mean, that's more on a formal basis, the work that I do, and it's, you know, my pro bono work, you know, to help build resilience in the community. But it's also, you know, I do it in sort of micro levels with every founder that I'm meeting as well, providing that sort of mirror back to themselves for that self-awareness to continue to grow.
I think you raise an interesting point there, Peter, where you can have formal coaching, but you can also, you know, adopt a coaching mindset in all the relationships that you have and kind of help people reflect on it themselves. Have you identified a sweet spot where engaging a coach can actually be most impactful, where people are most receptive to some of this feedback?
That's a great question. I think that as people start to even, you know, sort of become responsible for managing other human beings on a regular basis, and I'm not talking about on a project basis, but, you know, responsible for their growth, for their careers, for their progression, that's a great time to start to learn. And so, you know, it can be as early as that, or of course, you know, once you're a founder, you're absolutely responsible for those things. And so that, you know, even at the very start of that startup journey, it's a wonderful time to start learning.
So Maxine, you hinted at it in the sense that coaching kind of underpins the fellowship program, which of course, you know, Liminal is in the lead up to the application process. Our wonderful fellows get access to a coach to support their journey, which is somewhere between the career coach and executive coach model. When I was training to be an executive coach, it struck me that as much as it takes time to be a good coach and to practice in that area, the art of actually being coached is also a muscle that needs kind of development and strengthening. How can we best actually prepare to engage a coach, Maxine? Or, what are some of the keys for a really successful relationship to form?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a good question and an insightful question, because often people come to coaching not having done that first bit of work to kind of think about themselves actually being coached. So I think a couple of things to prep and even assess whether now is the right time for you for an executive coach. I mean, to Peter's point, it's very important to be thinking about when is the right time and is now the right time to make that investment. First thing is really thinking about what it is that you actually want to work on. Which part of this do you want someone to kind of help you on the self-development journey? Do you want someone to help you on the business journey? And that will inform how, which kind of coach you work with. And then second of all, I think is really thinking about the investment that you're making. You're making an investment in terms of time, in terms of effort, in terms of money. And it's not always easy to do that work, especially the kind of work that Peter mentioned, where you're reflecting on yourself and really doing that deep self-work. It's not always an easy path. And I'm sure Peter has supported a lot of founders through that journey as they navigate, or, any of the people he works with as they navigate that work. So I think just being humble enough and recognizing you're coming to do work, and being really clear about what kind of work it is that you want to be doing and where you want to grow.
Yeah, it's great insights. Thank you, Maxine. And Peter, there can be good coaching engagements, but there can also be these, fundamentally transformative ones, especially when people are going through those, experiences in life which have taken them to the edge. What are the elements of a really powerful coaching relationship, and what will a great coach do in those situations?
I think at the very beginning, the establishment of deep trust is really important. So just as an example, when I start my coaching relationships, the very first thing I say is that whatever we talk about in session is deeply sacred to me in terms of being confidential. There's no other person on earth that I would speak to the content of what we're going to discuss over the coming weeks and months about. And that is a sacred promise, and a promise I treat very, very seriously. And that trust has got to be there. On the other end, of course, I make it very open and welcome for whoever I'm working with to tell anybody about the nature of the work that we're doing. That's theirs to keep and theirs to share as they wish. But on my side, I keep it sacredly confidential. I put it that way because it's so important. And from there, what can happen is that everything can be shared. And for the coaching relationship to be effective, that's got to be the case. And so the key ingredients for me are deep candor, openness, open-mindedness, transparency, a willingness to be curious, to understand that one may not be seeing the world exactly as it is. And so, all of these are the key ingredients for a very effective relationship. And I find that, that there is always this courage. There's this element of courage that I find, and the people that I'm working with find within themselves as a part of that coaching journey, because there's somebody else there that helps them, and they can understand times when they've been truly courageous, and then build on that underlying courage that is there. And what we're doing is peeling back the layers so they can understand the real sort of core of who they are. But yeah, they're the key ingredients that tend to be a part of most of the coaching relationships that I have.
I love that concept of courage in the coaching relationship. And I do think, as it relates to the fellowship, a lot of the women who are participating are really trying to build that courage for themselves to take a different career path, or to kind of throw themselves in the deep end. So it's definitely something that feels resonant there. I did also want to go back to that word candor, which I think is such a powerful word. It's something that definitely is baked into a really good coaching relationship, but also kind of an unfamiliar concept in general business language, at least in Australia, maybe more so in the startup ecosystem. Can you elaborate a little bit on candor and how that kind of plays out in a strong relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. The willingness to describe, for example, the willingness to describe a situation exactly how one might see it, even if it might feel uncomfortable, even if it might not be exactly descriptive of what might be going on, taking a step back, but I need to get the sense of what is the lens from which this person is seeing the world. And if they're able to show me that honesty and that candor, then we can say, okay, all right, that's where you're at. That's where we are at. And let's see how we can evolve beyond this point. But without that, I can't say this, or I shouldn't say that, or, you know, these sort of things that those limiters make it difficult to get a sense of exactly where the person I'm working with is that in the way that they framed the world. And so that you know, some people call it radical candor, deep honesty, whatever it might be. I think the courage and willingness to be able to do that, to challenge oneself to do that, that's so fundamental to moving, you know, deeper in the coaching conversation.
It's almost like naming the elephant in the room and giving it a hug at the same time.
Yeah.
How do we kind of bring these things into the fore?
Exactly.
I haven't had enough coffee yet. Apologies. Maxine, you've obviously had the privilege of working with people in a coaching relationship, but also working with coaches kind of more generally. I guess, you know, in that kind of exposure, there are war stories or things that also emerge. What are some of the times when you've seen or heard of coaching relationships go wrong, and what sort of things can happen?
It's interesting to jump off from radical candor into that world, because they are very much related. And I think that the work by Kim Scott on radical candor and the importance of compassion and recognizing the compassion and being candid is so important. War stories from coaching. I think there's kind of two main buckets that they usually come out of. The first one is when there's kind of a mismatch in expectation. You know, someone wants to do, let's say, inner work, and the coach is skilled at like outer work, the structural stuff, the way the business works, and there's a mismatch there, or vice versa. What I think some kind of key places that we see that break down is when there's, and this is the second bucket, is the quality of the relationship. We call it chemistry. You're really seeking that chemistry, that deep trust, that ability to show up in that session and really trust both sides, you know, from the coach's perspective, that their perspective is respected, that their time is respected, that they really kind of can show up and really invest in that client relationship. And from the client perspective, same thing. The coach really shows up. The coach really is invested in this person's success. I think one way to think about coaching, if you're thinking about engaging a coach, is having that coach's job is to be in your corner for everything. Their whole job is to help you move towards the goals you've shared with them. And sometimes that is giving the tough feedback. Sometimes that is the radical candor. Peter, to your point, you know, sometimes it's maybe the world doesn't look like that to everyone else. Maybe the world might look like this to someone else, and providing that 360. And sometimes it's giving the encouragement. We've all had those moments where we're working really hard towards a goal. We're not getting, you know, especially if it's in a place where there's not tight feedback loops. Are we doing well? Are we doing poorly? You know, are we working on the right things? Just having someone as a third party to look at you, say on the field, so to speak, and say, yeah, you're playing the right game. It's just a long time until you see the results of that, but you're here and you're doing a great job. But I think often those coaching relationships deteriorate when there's just an absence of chemistry, an absence of match between the individual and the person that they're looking to coach, and the person that they're looking to get coached from.
So I'm hearing that good chemistry kind of underpins everything, but that person should still be able to give you the medicine when you need it, and not just kind of be the coach giving you the shoulder massage. You've got to strike that balance. And that's probably more confronting for the coaching counterpart, or the person receiving the coaching, than it is for a skilled coach who can kind of know when to walk that line. We do have a couple of questions from people in the room, but before I jump there, Peter, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about your coaching style. You sort of touched on it briefly before, and maybe just reflect on a moment for you as a coach that's been really memorable, where somebody's had one of those kind of lightning bolts or really a transformative view from there.
Well, my coaching style is very much built around cultivating self-awareness, self-observation, understanding the self deeply, and then in understanding the relationship with self, then applying that in relationship with others, and that's a sort of leadership style that that I teach. And then the way that it works is that the process is about 3 to 6 months. And so sometimes it sort of takes a little bit longer, but the first 6 to 8 weeks or so, it's weekly session, 1 hour on Sunday morning each week for about 6 to 8 weeks. And then it's every second week from there on in. So it's quite an intensive time commitment. And at the moment I'm working with, believe it or not, five founders right now. So Sunday mornings is pretty busy, but you know, it's a beautifully rewarding journey on my side, selfishly as the coach. I mean, I've had so many beautiful moments, but the most beautiful ones are when we're so deep in a process whereby the environment is there, all the ingredients are there for the person that I'm working with on the other end to on their own accord, discover that the way that they've been looking at the world might be different to what they thought and what they had been conditioned for the last 20, 30, 40 years. And that change in worldview almost sort of shatters their view of the world, and it becomes completely different. And from that point onwards, that person is almost like a different person. Inside they're the same, but their behaviors have changed because they've observed themselves and observed their relationship to themselves and the world and understood, actually, I thought it was this, but now actually I realize it's something else. And there's no habit to need to build. There's no sort of process or, no, through the mere observation, they've then fundamentally changed as human beings. And that's, for me, so powerful. And all of what's happening on the other end on my side is that all of my like blood cells and cells in my body are going like whoosh and kind of going, Pete, you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing exactly what you're meant to be doing. This is what you're here for. That is super
such a
powerful.
Beautiful story. and what you hint at there as well, where it really is their own insights that have taken them there, and you just get to be witness, which is what's so amazing about being a coach, isn't it? That you've kind of brought them to the edge and they have that experience. Maxine, you were going to jump in there as well, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's so, just to kind of second that, it's such a privilege to be witness to those moments for people. And exactly as you were saying, their own journey and their own process to that moment of kind of unlocking and watching them flourish through that. And then the part of the journey after that, getting to watch what that almost like inflection point in their own growth looks like up into this whole new world for them. So I was just, even just thinking about it makes me excited, because it's such a pleasure to watch.
And I guess, Maxine, a question for you. You've both coached and been coached. What's something about a way a coach has actually worked with you that has taken you to the next level?
Yeah, I think there are kind of two ways that I have been kind of unlocked in my own coaching relationships and kind of witnessed coaching. One is that mindset piece, that moment where you feel someone or kind of watch someone reframe and restructure their world, their way of thinking about the world, their way they operate in the world, even kind of a strategy problem in their business, in the way that they think about their own progression. That is really exciting. In my own in my own coaching experience, I've had the same thing, a moment when I shifted from one way of thinking to another way, or one way of operating the business to another way, or one way of running my career to another way. And then there's also the tactical. I think it's really important to kind of to recognize that a good executive coach is there to also support you on the framework side, or kind of if you're working with a coach who's closer to that management consulting side, to support you kind of on the tactical skills. And the number of, I actually can't count the number of times I have witnessed this in coaching environments and experienced it myself, where I'm really kind of at what feels like a bolus, like a problem that's so intertwined and complex, and I just don't even know how to get at the problem. And my coach has kind of sat down with me and helped me kind of unpack the problem and unlock some growth in our business, or some a quality of relationship with one of our partners, or whatever the problem was that I was looking to work on. And I see this all the time with clients as well. It's really a knotted problem for them and they really can't get at it. And the coach brings tactical frameworks and experiences and war stories kind of help that person unlock that problem for them. And it's a different kind of inflection point, but it's one for me that's just as exciting to watch that person kind of explode out of the gates of that coaching opportunity and then, you know, explore into the next realm.
That's fantastic. So we have 5 minutes left, and that we've got some great questions coming through that are much more practical in terms of, you know, how do we get started with this? People who are interested in kind of looking to a coach. I'd love recommendations from both of you on, you know, where do you start that journey of, you know, identifying a coach you can work with? You know, what kind of qualifications should you be looking for of somebody that you might work with as well?
I might defer to Maxine on this one, but just quickly to share with everybody, you know, even though I have coaching as part of the work that I do, I work with coaches for myself. So, you know, every few years I will work with another coach, and just to help my own development. So it's you know, even for people who are, I guess, doing coaching, I mean, I'm working with coaches myself as well.
Perhaps even more so.
Yeah, absolutely. Hang on, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to second that, I mean, I have a coach I've been working with for years. She's exceptional, and I think I can't recommend it enough. On the tactical side, I think kind of going back to the first question, Lauren, that you had about how the first steps to go and engage with a coach. First of all, think about what you want to work on. Is it more of the life coaching stuff? Is it a particular career coaching moment that you're looking for support on, or is it more of the kind of tactical executive coach support? That's step one. So step two, kind of thinking about where to find those people. There's a couple of places to go looking. I mean, the obvious ones are for coaching networks, coaching groups, so such as the M Collective. We support founders, we support executives in tech companies. It's kind of the tech industry is our area of expertise. So we'll work with Google, Slack, Palantir, Notion, and then a bunch of different startups, mainly in the States, but increasingly in Australia. So coming to an organization like us and looking for a coach, we help you kind of match that coach and find the person the right fit for you. Another one is an organization called The Reservoir. Also, we're involved with, that is kind of for the coaching curious. If you want that kind of support around your coaching experience, so you can kind of dabble in coaching, but you also want the community and a different way of thinking, and a different way of kind of your own growth in a more supported way. The Reservoir is a good one. Another place is talking to your founder friends or other friends who have experienced coaching, kind of getting their recommendation. On that point of chemistry, the quality of the fit between you and your coach is so important for the success of your coaching relationship. So kind of personal references are really valuable. In terms of qualifications of your coach, I think it's important to kind of approach that thinking about what it is that you actually want from a coaching relationship. So for example, if you want an executive coach who's focused on kind of the tactical side, looking for qualifications that support that business acumen, so to speak. Have they done it themselves? Have they, you know, maybe MBAs, those kind of things? Obviously, that means they're on the higher end of the price spectrum because of their experience. Whereas on, let's say, life coaching, it's really important to kind of have more of a broader view. And so looking for qualifications like formal coaching certifications, so you understand kind of what perspectives that they bring. Although I will say some of the best coaches that we work with have no formal certification. They've never done one of those coaching programs, and they just consistently level up their clients in a way that's amazing to watch. And some of the coaches that we, you know, work with that have formal certification are also exceptional. So really, I think the leading indicator of quality is more about what has that person done in the past, looking for and asking them for references and war stories of what they've actually worked on, and then looking for that personal fit, and trust your gut on that. You know, don't feel like you have to engage with that person if you're feeling uncomfortable in their environment. You don't feel like you can be radically candid, for example, in the environment with them.
Unfortunately, I don't want to, but I have to wrap up this session because we have another Liminal session starting at 8:30 daylight savings time. So I'm going to pass back over to Sophia, but thank you so much, Maxine and Peter. What a great way to start the day with that sort of conversation, and all the best to everyone on your coaching journeys. Thanks,
Thank
Sophia.
you so much for having us.
Thank you.
What an awesome panel, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Yes, please do jump across. I've just put the link in the chat to our next session with Crystal, who's the VP of People at Canva. Come join us. And also Liminal is on every single day this week. So hope to see you all 8 till 9 daily. Panel, thank you so much. That was awesome. And speak to you soon. Bye.
Great. Thanks so much. Bye.